A University of South Dakota professor gets fired for evil comments he makes in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, and I'm sort of on the fence about this one legally, sort of, but not at all on the fence about this one morally. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler, and if you haven't heard this story, it's probably because there have been a few too many stories of people getting fired for saying absolutely inhumane, stupid things after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This one comes out of a university in South Dakota where a professor had some choice words that he posted to Facebook, which is a cesspool of evil and degeneracy. He had some choice words after the assassination, and they weren't good. They got him fired, and he went to court to get a temporary restraining order to get his job back, and he got his job back, at least for the moment. From Higher Ed Dive, University of South Dakota must reinstate professor on leave over Kirk comments, judge orders. U.S. District Judge Karen Schreier said the instructor had a, quote, fair chance of prevailing, end quote, in his lawsuit alleging the institution violated his free speech rights, published September 26, 2025 by Laura Spitalniak. From what I can tell, for what it's worth, Judge Karen Schreier was a Bill Clinton appointee. She has determined that on the merits, this professor stands a reasonable chance of arguing First Amendment violations for him being fired from his job as a professor for comments he made on Facebook while not at work. We'll get into some select passages from the judgment, but let's just hear what this article has to say by way of summary. Dive brief. A federal judge has ordered leaders at the University of South Dakota to temporarily reinstate Phillip Michael Hooke, a tenured art professor it sought to fire over a social media post critical of Charlie Kirk. Remember that description, over a social media post critical of Charlie Kirk. I'm going to read this post to you if the article doesn't cite it in its entirety, because it's absolutely just the personification of evil. On September 12, the university notified Hooke he would be placed on administrative leave and that it intended to terminate his contract over a private Facebook post he shared criticizing Kirk the day of the conservative firebrand's killing. A private Facebook post? I'm pretty sure he posted it to the public on Facebook. First clarification of this vlog, private account on Facebook is almost something of an oxymoron. I believe that whatever you post to the internet is by definition posted to the public, but the question is this, okay fine, it's a private account. Only people who he authorizes to follow can follow. Is it 8 members of his family, or is it thousands of people, including students from that very university? The fact that the judge does not clarify this in the ruling or mention what that evidence was of this private account makes me very, very suspicious. It was a little bigger than what most people understand as being private, probably included students from this university or other colleagues, and as such, yeah, that private defense is no defense at all. Back to the vlog, there'll be another clarification in a bit. Hooke is suing university leaders, alleging they unconstitutionally retaliated against him over his political speech. The professor's case has a, quote, fair chance of prevailing, end quote, U.S. District Judge Karen Schreier said Wednesday in granting the temporary restraining order. Hooke is just one of an increasing number of college employees who have been reprimanded or fired over their speech about Kirk following his killing on September 10, and a growing number of the educators affected are taking their cases to court. Schreier's ruling this week represented one of the first court actions in such a lawsuit. The federal judge said Hooke must prove he made his comments as a citizen on, quote, a public matter of concern, end quote, and that the University of South Dakota's actions came as a result of that speech. Hours after Kirk was killed, Hooke said on his private Facebook account that he had no, quote, thoughts or prayers, end quote, for Kirk. In 2012, Kirk founded Turning Point USA, a conservative advocacy group geared toward young people, and became a prominent figure on college campuses in the process. Many of his political beliefs, such as opposition to race-conscious college admissions and gun control, fell in line with those of the conservative movement more broadly. Now, from the article thus far, it seems that the professor who got fired only said he had no thoughts and prayers. Let's hope that this article actually cites the post in its entirety in order to retain any integrity or credibility. Let's just hope. I think they do. Quote, I'm sorry for his family that he was a hate-spreading Nazi and got killed. I'm sure they deserve better, end quote, Hooke said in his Facebook post. Quote, but geez, where was all this concern when the politicians in Minnesota were shot and the school shootings and Capitol Police, end quote? A few hours later, Hooke deleted the post and shared, quote, a public apology to those who were offended, end quote, by it on the same account. He published both posts while he was off work, according to court documents. Let's take a break from this article to actually go read the post in its entirety, because I don't think this article did the post the justice of the evil that it is. From the lawsuit, background, Hooke is a tenured professor of art at the University of South Dakota. He has taught at the university university since 2006. In the late afternoon on September 10, 2025, while at home and off work, Hooke posted the following message concerning the recent shooting and killing of Charlie Kirk to his private Facebook account. Okay, I don't give a flying F asterisk 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 about this Kirk person. Apparently he was a hate-spreading Nazi. I wasn't paying close enough attention to the idiotic right fringe to even know who he was. I'm sorry for his family that he was a hate-spreading Nazi and got killed. I'm sure they deserve better. Maybe good people could now enter their lives. But geez, where was all this concern when the politicians in Minnesota were shot and the school shooting and Capitol Police? I have no thoughts or prayers for this hate-spreading Nazi. A shrug, maybe. That's a little different than what that article would lead you to believe was the extent of the hate spewed in that Facebook post. The only question now is, does this guy deserve to get fired for what he posted on his private Facebook account while not at work that had nothing to do with his work? The question will come down to whether or not this could reasonably cause a disruption of the services at the university, and the judge obviously says no. At this stage, defendants have failed to put on evidence that Hooke's, quote, speech had an adverse impact on the efficiency of the university's operations, end quote. Defendants allege that in the days following Hooke's post, quote, hundreds of calls and messages were made to the Board of Regents and or the University of South Dakota commenting negatively regarding the comment or calling for the removal of Professor Hooke, end quote. But, quote, mere allegations the speech disrupted the workforce or affected morale without evidentiary support are insufficient, end quote. Defendants have not demonstrated that there was any disruption to on-campus activities, Hooke's teaching lessons, or the university's operations, and without more, quote, such vague and conclusory concerns runs the risk of constitutionalizing a heckler's veto, end quote. Thus, because defendants have failed to demonstrate any evidence of disruption, the court need not consider the Pickering factors at this stage. The court concluded that these were comments of public concern on a recent event and as such benefit from a presumption of First Amendment rights, and that they were not made in the context of the employment of the university professor, which would have otherwise obviously justified his termination. But there are provisions of the contract which allow for off-campus non-employment speech to be the cause for termination if it disrupts the activities of the campus. And this judge said, yeah, sure, flooding the lines with calls, with comments, asking for him to be fired. Well, it wasn't on-campus disruption, so that it's not sufficient to warrant firing him for his speech off-campus, not during employment hours. I'm really on the fence about this one, because if this were private enterprise, I would be defending it entirely. Clarification, by defending it entirely, I mean I would have been defending the firing entirely. You got someone working for your private business and they post this vitriolic crap to Facebook, to the internet. You now have a liability representing your business to the public, and you want to work with people who think it's not a terrible thing that you have political assassinations. You are within your rights to fire that person. That person is a liability, not just from a free speech perspective, but possibly from a safety perspective. So back to the vlog and my final thoughts after having thought about this for a couple of days now. That said, this is a university and he's a university professor, but I have little trouble believing that his statements off campus, not during his employment hours, caused significant disruption to the university's activities, even if it wasn't necessarily on campus because it occurred on a Thursday. I have zero trouble believing that, and I have zero trouble believing also that it compromises the goodwill and the brand of the university that they have a professor who literally spews ignorant hate in the wake of a political assassination. But alas, the judge, the Bill Clinton appointee, for the time being believes that the balance of probability, the irreparable harm, weigh in favor of the plaintiff, and they've reinstated him as per the conclusions of the order. Conclusion: based on the above, it is ordered. 1. Hooke's motion for temporary restraining order docket 3 is granted. Defendants are required to temporarily set aside their determination to place Hooke on administrative leave. Defendant shall reinstate Hooke's position as a professor of art at the University of South Dakota, retroactive to September 12, 2025, to remain effective until the preliminary injunction hearing on Wednesday, October 8, 2025 at 9:00 a.m. in Sioux Falls, Courtroom 2. Defendants are not restrained from holding a personal conference with Hooke on September 29, 2025. This temporary restraining order shall remain in effect until October 8, 2025, dated September 24, 2025, by the court, Karen E. Schreier, United States District Judge. If you're still watching this and you haven't yet subscribed and turned on notifications, I guess you never will. I don't know what I got to do to get you to do it, but go ahead, take 3 seconds to do it because it'll help the channel. That is where the situation is at right now. This guy's been given his job back. We'll see where it goes. I'm sort of on the fence about this one, but I am inclined to think that he deserves to get fired for his words, because it's not just that they were hateful and I don't like them because I happen to like Charlie Kirk. They are awful, that will compromise the brand of the university and make it look like they've got a bunch of extreme idiots at their employment, and make it look like they've actually got a bunch of extremists who really don't seem to disapprove of the most egregious violence working for them. It's not good for business, and I have no doubt that it has and or will continue to disrupt the activities of that university. But with that said, that is the story, and now you know it. If you like what I do, you know what to do. do, but most importantly, exercise, eat healthy, sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now I know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah! And now that I've had a couple of days to mull this over, I am really not on the fence very much anymore at all. The guy deserves to lose his job. This reflects poorly on the university. It reflects poorly on the institution. This man holds a position of power in society. He takes to Facebook, to his private account of however many people we don't yet know, to basically say, I know nothing about this person, but I'm going to publicly endorse, or at the very least refuse to condemn political assassinations and somehow blame the victim for his own assassination. This guy deserves to lose his job. I think he will lose his job on the merits because this is a liability for the university. It's not a question of free speech. This is a question of you choosing to say terrible things on the internet that ostensibly condone political assassinations and expect to keep your job. There is contract law at play here, and this man is going to be on the receiving end of his contract. Peace out. Booyah! A hypocrite is the kind of politician who would cut down a redwood tree, then mount the stump and make a speech for conservation. Adlai Stevenson 1.